The station that cost $1. Jake stepped out of the small rusted shuttle and floated into the silent docking bay of the strange old space station. The metal walls around him were cracked but glowing with a soft green light like the place had a heartbeat of its own. He had paid just $1 for this abandoned station in an online auction and expected nothing more than broken tech and silence. Instead, he felt watched. He moved forward slowly, his boots clicking on the cold floor as the airlock behind him closed on its own with a hiss that was not supposed to happen. He looked back, but the panel showed no manual override. Strange. Jake shook off the uneasy feeling and stepped deeper into the hallway, following blinking arrows that lit up as if guiding him. Then he saw her, a woman with long silver hair, standing at the end of the corridor. She looked more like a dream than a real person. Her eyes were bright like twin suns and her skin shimmered like moonlight on water. She smiled gently and said, "Welcome, traveler. We have been waiting for you." Jake froze. He looked around and two more women stepped out from the shadows. One had fiery red hair that curled like flames. The other had skin that glowed faint blue like starlight, and eyes filled with kindness. They introduced themselves as Alamira and Nara. They moved with a grace that made him forget to breathe for a moment. This has to be some kind of prank, he thought. But the way they looked at him felt real warm, like they were truly glad to see him. They offered him a drink. He refused. They asked about Earth. He answered with short, nervous words. It was like they wanted to know everything about him, every little detail. But when he asked where they were from, or how long they had been on this station, they only smiled and changed the subject. He was taken to a living area that was far nicer than expected. Clean, soft furniture, soft lighting, gentle music. It felt like a hotel, not a derelict ruin. Mira sat beside him and touched his arm lightly. Her skin was cool and smooth and her eyes locked on his. "We're glad you came, Jake," she whispered. "You're different. You feel more alive than the others." The others, what did that mean? Jake's mind spun, but he kept quiet. Something deep in his chest told him to play along for now. He nodded and smiled back, but his fingers curled tight against his leg. Later, he tried to return to the shuttle, but the door would not open. No response from the controls. He checked his comms dead. He returned to the main hallway and asked Ayla how to leave. Her answer came soft but firm. "You can't go yet, Jake. The station is not ready to let you go. It knows you're still needed here." His stomach dropped. What did she mean? "They station knows." Was it alive? He tried again and again, but every exit sealed shut. The terminal near the dock only flashed strange symbols he could not read. That night he lay on the bed they had given him. It was warm and soft, but he could not sleep. His mind replayed the way Mira looked at him, like a scientist watching the subject, like a person watching a flame dance before it goes out. Sat up and walked through the halls alone. No sign of the girls, just the soft humming of machines deep below. He turned a corner and found a hatch slightly open. Curiosity took over. He pushed it open and crawled through a narrow shaft. At the end, he found a room with old data pads, broken tools, and a half-burned logbook. He flipped through the pages. Scrawled notes filled the yellow paper. One line stood out in red ink. "Don't trust their faces. They look perfect, but it's not real. They will keep you as long as the station wants." His hands shook. He closed the book and turned around fast, as if expecting someone to be behind him. Nobody. He crawled back through the shaft and returned to his room. Ayla stood by the door. She smiled again, a soft, eerie smile. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked gently. He lied, "Just stretching my legs." She nodded and stepped aside. He went inside and lay down, pretending to sleep. His heart raced. The words echoed in his head. "They will keep you in the morning." The girls acted normal. Cooking, serving, talking. As if nothing was wrong. Jake played along, watching every move. They laughed at his jokes, touched his shoulder, made him feel wanted. But his trust cracked. He went back to the hallway where the hatch was. It was gone, sealed shut like it was never there. The hallway looked perfect again, smooth and untouched. He looked around. No cameras, no wires, no sign of tampering, just silence. He ran to the shuttle one last time, tried to force the door open. Alarms buzzed softly. Myra appeared behind him. "Jake, please, you'll hurt yourself." He turned to her. "What are you?" Her eyes flickered. For a second, just a shimmer. Then they returned to normal. She said, "Nothing to fear, you'll understand soon." He stepped back, heart pounding. 3 stunning alien girls. A station he could not leave, and a warning from a stranger long gone. This was not a home. This was something else, and he was trapped. Beauty hides secrets. Jake walked slowly through the bright hallway, feeling like every step took him deeper into something he could not understand. The station was too perfect now, too clean. Too smooth, like someone kept polishing it behind his back. Every scratch he noticed earlier was gone. Even the dust that had covered the metal walls when he first arrived had vanished without a trace. He reached the main hall where Ayla sat on a floating chair reading something on a glass screen. She looked up and smiled, her silver hair falling gently over her shoulder. "You look troubled, Jake," she said softly. "Did you sleep well?" He lied again. "Yes, I did, just thinking about what to do next." She tilted her head. "There is nowhere else to go." She said, "This station is your home now." Jake forced a smile, but inside his chest something twisted tightly. He walked past her and entered the food chamber, where Mira was setting plates of glowing fruit and warm, soft cubes that smelled like honey. She greeted him with a cheerful wave and said, "Try this one, Jake, it's my favorite." He sat down slowly and picked up the fruit. It felt like a real fruit, juicy and fresh. He took a bite and tasted something sweet and strange. It was good, but also too perfect, too smooth. He chewed quietly, watching Mira from the corner of his eye. She hummed a tune while placing more food around the table, moving with a grace that seemed rehearsed, like she was performing. Jake swallowed hard and said, "Can I ask you something?" She smiled wider. "Anything." She asked, "Who lived here before me?" Her hand paused in the air for a second. Then she said, "Only you matter now. The past is gone. We are here for you. Only you." That answer chilled him. He finished eating and went back to the control room where Nara waited. She had her hands on the console, her eyes glowing slightly as streams of data floated in the air around her. Jake said, "What are you doing?" She turned and said, "Just checking the station systems. Everything is stable." He asked, "Can you show me the logs?" Her eyes narrowed just a little. "Which logs?" "The logs from before I arrived," he said. She paused. "Those were erased," she said gently. "There's no reason to look at them." Jake nodded, but inside he was screaming. Later that day, he walked alone again, trying to remember every hidden door he had seen. He searched for the shaft that led to the room with the burned logbook, but it was gone, not sealed, gone, as if it never existed. He pressed on every wall, touched every panel, but nothing opened. The station had rearranged itself. That night he stayed in bed with his eyes open. He heard soft humming again from the walls. This time it was louder. He got up and walked into the hallway barefoot. The sound pulled him toward the storage area. He reached a metal door and touched it. The hum stopped instantly. He opened the door and peeked inside. There stood Mira, not moving, her back to him, her arms by her side. Her hair floated in the air like there was no gravity in the room. He whispered, "Mira." She did not respond. He stepped closer and saw her eyes. They were open, glowing faintly. No pupils, no blinking, just glowing orbs of light. Then she turned slowly and smiled. "You should not be here, Jake," she said. Her voice was calm but hollow. He stepped back and said, "What are you?" Her smile widened. "You already know." He ran down the hallway, heart thudding in his ears, back to his room and slammed the door in. The morning, everything was normal again. Mira greeted him like nothing happened. Jake pretended to smile and sat down for breakfast. Ayla touched his arm and said, "You look pale. Did you dream?" Jake said, "No, just tired." He ate slowly while watching their faces. They laughed and smiled and talked like friends, but their eyes never blinked for too long. Their hands never shook. Their movements too perfect, too smooth. He spent the afternoon looking for answers. He found a small maintenance panel behind the water purifier and pried it open. Inside, he found old wires and a disconnected terminal. He worked for hours to power it up. Finally, the screen blinked on and words appeared. "Archive. Status access level denied." He bypassed the code and entered a hidden menu. A file appeared, old logs. Jake opened them. The screen showed footage from years ago, humans, at least 4 of them, walking through the station, talking, laughing, then screams, then nothing. Next file. One man speaking directly to the camera, his eyes wide, his face pale. He said, "If anyone finds this, get out. They are not what they seem. They took the others, they look perfect, but they are not human. They feed on memory, on energy. They make you feel safe, but they are not." Then the video cut off. Jake shut the screen. His hands trembled. He heard footsteps behind him. He turned quickly and saw Nara standing silently, her blue glow softer than usual. She said, "That room is forbidden, Jake. You should not be here," he said. Why hide the truth?" She sighed. "Because the truth hurts more than lies." She walked closer and said, "We are not your enemy, Jake. You were not supposed to see this, but we are not monsters." He asked, "What are you then?" She said, "We are dying, and you are our last hope." He backed away slowly. Nara did not stop him. She just stood there with glowing eyes and a sad smile. Jake returned to his room and sat on the floor, his thoughts spinning. They were not trying to kill him, but they were not telling the whole truth either. Were they waiting for him, or were they trapping him? He stared at the ceiling. He knew now this was not about a space station. It was about survival. Theirs and maybe his, but what price would he have to pay? The station's true purpose. Jake sat alone inside a cold, dark corner of the station, his mind spinning like a broken wheel, trying to find reason in a place that no longer obeyed rules. He stared at the hidden screen he had found earlier, the last words of a man who had once stood where he now stood, still echoing in his ears. They feed on memory, on energy. They make you feel safe, but they are not. The girls had given him comfort food, even affection, but none of it felt real anymore. Every smile now seemed like a carefully crafted mask. Every kind word sounded like a trap in soft wrapping. Could not sleep. He had not slept in what felt like 2 nights. Whenever he closed his eyes, he saw Myra glowing, unmoving, like a statue from another world. He saw Nara watching him from the shadows, her eyes filled with something that looked like sadness but could be something else entirely. He saw Ayla standing still outside his door, each night whispering to the walls like she was speaking to the station itself. Jake made a decision. He would find the core. He needed to know what powered this place, what kept it alive, why it reacted to him, and why the girls seemed to bend around his presence, as if he was the center of something they needed. He walked to the center sector, the oldest and most restricted part of the station. The doors were locked, but he remembered the bypass codes from the old system logs. He typed them slowly, one by one, until the metal doors groaned open with a sound like the station was waking up from sleep. Inside the core chamber, the light was different, dimmer, thicker, like walking through a liquid dream. Strange wires hung from the ceiling. Energy lines pulsed through the floor. In the middle was a raised platform, and on it was a spherical terminal glowing with soft blue light. Jake stepped forward. The codes station's hum changed. It felt warmer. It felt like it recognized him. He touched the terminal. A surge of memory hit him, not his own. Memories of past visitors, memories of laughter, then fear, then silence. Flashes of people before him, a woman screaming as the lights around her dimmed, a man begging to leave, then images of the girls not in their current form, but as beings of light moving through space, drifting lost. A voice entered his head, not through his ears but directly into his thoughts. "You are awake. You are different. You are human." Jake pulled his hand back, gasping. The core glowed brighter. He heard footsteps behind him. He turned fast and saw Ayla walking toward him slowly, her silver hair now fading into faint energy strands floating around her like mist. She said, "We never wanted it this way. We were once free, once many. But time broke us. The stars we called home are gone. We came here because we had no choice. The station holds us together. It keeps us from fading, but it needs balance. It needs a living mind to anchor it." Jake said, "That's why I'm here. Not because I bought it, but because you needed me." Ayla nodded. "You are not the first, but you are the first who has not run. You are the first who stayed and listened. The others fought. They feared us. They were not wrong, but they did not understand." Jake asked, "Why the lies then?" Why hide the truth? Allah's voice softened. Because truth burns, and we feared you would leave. Jake turned back to the core. He placed his hand on the sphere again. This time the station opened more to him. He saw the logs, the real ones. The station was not a home. It was not a prison either. It was a life pod. A last remnant of an ancient species that had no shape of its own, only energy, only memory, and they had built this place as shelter from time. The girls Ala, Mira, and Nara were not individuals, but fragments of a single broken soul. The station split them to survive, to learn to feel, and he had reawakened something inside them, a spark. Emotion, memory. The human mind could carry what they had lost. Hope, but not all was well. The station was failing. The core pulsed slower than it should. Jake turned and asked Ayla, "What happens if the core dies?" She said, "We fade completely. Nothing will remain, not the station, not us, not you." Jake stepped back. "But I'm not part of this. I just came here because it was cheap. Because I had nothing else." Ayla looked at him. "But now you're a part of us. This place has accepted you. You can walk away, or you can save." I shook his head. "I don't know what saving it means. Do I give up my body? Do I become like you?" She said, "No, you remain you. But you let this place connect to you. You let it feel again through you, and maybe in return, it gives you more than you had before." He thought about Earth, his lonely apartment, his empty fridge, the messages no one answered. He thought about the girls, the moments of warmth, even if they were not fully real. He thought about the fear, and he realized fear was not the worst thing he had felt. Loneliness was. The station began to shake. Lights flickered. Alarms, low and strange, echoed through the walls. Ayla stepped back, her eyes wide. Someone triggered the failsafe. "Nara, she fears you will choose to leave." Jake ran. He ran through the hallway as the station trembled under his feet. Mira appeared, blocking his way. Her voice cold. "Now, you were not supposed to go there. You saw too much." Jake shouted. "I saw what I needed. I know what this place really is, and I'm not your prisoner." Mira's form flickered, her skin pulsing with light and shadows. Then she vanished like smoke. Jake reached the emergency panel near the central hub. He had two options: open the escape pod or stabilize the core. One meant freedom. The other meant becoming part of something forever. He looked at his hand. Still shaking, still human. He took a deep breath and turned toward the core. He made his choice: escape or save them. Stood in front of the core, trembling. His hand hovered over the terminal. Unsure of what to do, escape or save them. That was the choice he had. He looked at the panel in front of him, where the escape pod option glowed red. He could leave, just press the button, and he would be free. No more danger, no more questions. But something held him back. He thought about the girls, Ayla, Mira, Nara. They were not human, but they had feelings, fears, hopes. They weren't just machines or monsters. They were alive in their own way, trapped in forms they didn't fully understand, and he had brought them something they needed: humanity, connection, a reason to keep going. The lights flickered around him again. The station groaned like it was about to collapse. The hum of the core was fading, and everything seemed to be slowing down. Jake knew he had to make a decision. The longer he waited, the more the station would fall apart. The more everyone on it would disappear. He touched the terminal again. The screens flashed and whirred as the station seemed to sense his hesitation. It knew he was torn. The calm voice of Ayla spoke in his head. "You are our hope, our anchor, our last chance. The core is dying. If you leave now, we will fade. We cannot stop it. Please help us." Jake shut his eyes, feeling the weight of the decision on his chest. He thought about his life before this place: empty, lonely, living day by day with no real purpose, no real connection. The space station, strange as it was, had given him something he never expected. It had given him the feeling of being needed, being part of something. A part of him screamed to run, to take the escape pod, and never look back. But another part, the part that felt alive for the first time, told him to stay, to try, to save them, to save himself too. He looked around, his heart pounding as the station continued to shake. The walls were starting to crack, small pieces of metal falling to the Ground the emergency lights flashed, but they were weak, dim. The girls had disappeared. And he was alone, except for the core that was dying before his eyes. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and made his choice. He would save them, not because they were aliens, but because they were lost souls. Not because they needed him, but because in some strange way, he needed them too. He needed to believe that connection mattered, that something more than survival was worth fighting for. Jake reached for the controls and began to reroute the energy flow from the core to the stabilizing system. His hands shook, but he moved with purpose. Now he knew what he was doing. The system asked for his permission to redirect the power, and he hesitated for a second. Then he pressed the button. The core's lights brightened, and the rumbling in the station softened for a moment. But it wasn't enough. Jake could feel it. There was still something missing. The core needed more than just energy to stabilize. It needed the emotional connection that only a human could give. Please help us. Jake Ayla's voice came through again, softer this time, almost pleading. We are not machines. We feel. We need your strength, your humanity to survive. Jake swallowed, feeling the pressure rise inside him. He couldn't give them just energy. He had to give them something deeper, something real. He closed his eyes and thought of his life on Earth, empty, meaningless. Then he thought of the girls, of their smiles, their kindness, their beauty. He thought of the way they had made him feel like he mattered. He thought of them, not as creatures, but as beings with their own struggles, their own pain. Here, he whispered, even though he wasn't sure if they could hear him. I'm not leaving. I won't let you go. The terminal flickered, and then the core's light turned from red to a soft, steady blue. The station's walls stopped shaking. The alarms faded into silence. Jake opened his eyes and saw the screen flash with a message: system stabilized, core integrity restored, energy flow stabilized. The station was alive again. And so were they. Ayla, Mira, and Nara appeared before him. They were no longer just alien figures in human forms. They were themselves. Ayla's silver hair glowed brightly. Mira's fiery eyes flickered with warmth, and Nara's faint blue glow pulsed softly. They were beautiful, yes, but now they were real. They were more than just echoes of what they had once been. Jake stood still, feeling the weight of the moment settle over him. He had done it. He had saved them, but he had also saved himself. Ayla stepped forward, her eyes filled with gratitude. Thank you, Jake, she said softly, her voice full of emotion. You gave us more than just a chance to survive. You gave us hope. You gave us a reason to keep going. Jake nodded, feeling something stir inside him that he had never felt before. He looked around at the station, now restored, humming with life once more. It wasn't just a place now, it was a home, a sanctuary for all of them, a place where they could rebuild together. Myra smiled, her eyes warm and soft. You are a part of us now. Jake, she said, this station, these girls, they are yours, just as much as you are ours. Jake felt his heart swell as he looked at them. He didn't have to be alone anymore. He didn't have to run away. He had found a place where he was needed, where he could belong. And in that moment, he realized that he had not just saved them, he had saved himself. But the truth was, they were all saving each other. A new life awaited them, a new beginning, free from the fear and isolation that had once bound them. Jake looked at the stars outside the station's windows, feeling the pull of the unknown, the excitement of what lay ahead, and he knew deep down that this was just the beginning, the new life. Jake stood by the window, looking out into the black void of space. The stars outside twinkled softly as the station drifted through the emptiness like a lonely ship, finding its way. But it wasn't lonely anymore. The station was alive again. Alive in a way it hadn't been for a long time. And so were the girls. Ayla, Mira, and Nara. The once empty and broken halls of the station had become a place of comfort and warmth. They had fixed the broken parts, restored the light, and made it feel like a home, a real home, not just a metal box floating in space, but a place where people, beings, whatever they were, could live, laugh, and grow. Jake walked down the familiar hallway now. No longer with fear, but with a sense of purpose. The girls were waiting for him in the common room. Alla was arranging strange glowing flowers on a table. Mira was humming quietly as she sorted through old books, and Nara was sitting by the window, staring out at the stars. They had found peace. They had found something real, and so had he. Entered the room and smiled. Ayla looked up first and smiled back. "We've been waiting for you," she said. "We've made something for you to see." Mira joined, in her fiery eyes glowing brighter with excitement. "We want to show you something new," she said. "Something we've been building together." Nara turned slowly, her soft blue light glowing even in the dim room. "We've built something that's ours now," she said gently. Jake raised an eyebrow, curious but calm. What had they built? Had they made something to replace the broken parts of the station? Something new and real? "What is it?" he asked softly. 3 girls stood up, their movements graceful and fluid, and led him toward the back of the room. Jake followed them, his heart racing slightly with curiosity. They stopped at a panel on the wall, and with a touch of Ayla's hand, it slid open to reveal a new door. The door wasn't there before. It was something new, something they had created. Jake could feel the excitement in the air as they stepped toward it. They were showing him something that was going to change everything. They opened the door, slowly. Inside, it was a room like nothing Jake had ever seen before. There were plants and flowers growing along the walls, strange alien creatures floating around in tanks, and books scattered across tables. There was a soft hum in the air, like the very room was alive and breathing with them. It wasn't just a room. It was a sanctuary, a place to be free, to live without fear, without running, without hiding. It was their new beginning. Ayla turned to him, her eyes filled with hope. "This is our gift too." "You, Jake," she said. "This place is yours too," Myra added. "We've made a place where we can all belong. A place where we can rebuild, learn, and grow." Nara smiled softly. "It's not just a space station anymore. It's home." Jake looked around the room, feeling the warmth of it, the energy of the girls around him. This was real. This was what he had fought for, what he had worked so hard to protect, a place where they could all be safe. He felt a wave of emotion hit him, something he hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't fear or confusion anymore. It was peace. He had found something that mattered. He had found a place where he wasn't just surviving, but living. He looked at the girls, his friends now, and said, "Thank you. I never expected this." Ella smiled warmly, her silver hair glowing like it had never done before. "We never expected this either," she said, "but we're glad we found you." Mira and Nara nodded in agreement. "We are all together now." Mira said, "We are no longer alone." Nara added, "Together, we can create something new, something better." Jake looked at them, his heart full. They were no longer strangers to him. They were his family, his companions. They had saved each other, and now they were building a future together. Over the next few days, Jake helped the girls work on the station. They rebuilt the rooms, planted new crops, and worked together to learn more about each other. He learned about their past, their struggles, their need to feel connected to something real, and they learned about him, about Earth, about humanity, about loneliness and hope. They shared stories, dreams, and fears, and through it all, they found a bond that was stronger than any walls the station could build. They were more than just survivors now. They were a team, a family. Jake spent time exploring the station, learning its secrets and its history. He uncovered old data logs from the original creators of the station, discovering that they were once explorers from a distant planet who had built this place as a safe haven for all who needed it. But somewhere along the way, it had fallen apart now. With the girls' help, it was beginning to heal. The station was no longer a prison or a trap. It was a new home for everyone who needed it. And as the days passed, Jake realized that this place, this station, wasn't just a place of survival anymore. It was a place of hope, a place where life could flourish, where the past could be left behind, and the future could be built. And he was a part of that future now. He wasn't just a visitor, he was home. He stood in front of the window again, looking out at the stars. But this time, He didn't feel lonely. He didn't feel like he was floating in the void. He felt connected, grounded, like he had found his place in the universe, with the girls by his side and the station alive again. He knew he had a future, and it wasn't just his anymore. It was theirs too. Ayla, Mira, and Nara joined him, standing quietly by his side. They didn't need to say anything. They all understood now they were together. They had found a new life, a life worth living. And as Jake looked out at the stars, he knew that he wasn't just trapped in a $1 space station anymore. He was free, he was home. The end.